Welcome to Channel Security Secrets. I'm Lou Raban. On this show, we expose the untold secrets and critical insights from the people shaping the future of cybersecurity sales in the Trusted Advisor channel. If you're looking to up your game around selling security, stick around. Channel Security Secrets is brought to you by Cyber Defense Group, on a mission to shift cybersecurity from reactive to resilient. I cannot wait to speak with today's guest. He's a channel leader, CISO, main stage speaker, and solutions innovator with more than 20 years of experience in technology. At TD SYNNEX, he drove global sales of solutions from 250 plus cybersecurity vendors to more than 20,000 channel partners worldwide. He currently leads a team of cybersecurity solutions engineers and oversees strategic partnerships with top industry vendors. He's the Chief Information Security Officer at MicroAge. Alex Ryals, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Really good to be here, Lou.
So Alex, what's the biggest secret to your success in the channel and security in general?
Well, I think out of all the years I've been at a vendor, I've been at a customer, I've been at a partner, I've been at a distributor. I think what I've learned is that the secret to a reseller service provider building a security practice is to align your security solutions that you sell with the skills of the sales reps who are going to sell it. Too many times I've seen those be at odds, those goals, and I've seen resellers and service providers struggle to grow their revenue around security. So the secret is make sure you're not selling something that your sales team is incapable of selling.
That's an interesting point because I think in the channel, what we're seeing is a lot of sellers that are new to security. So how that advice wouldn't totally gel with someone that hasn't sold security before. So what do you say to a trusted advisor that, maybe sold bandwidth or telecom and now they want to get into selling security?
So to answer that question, let me tell you a quick story. I spent about 12 years in distribution at Avnet, and then later they got bought by Tech Data. Tech Data merged with SYNNEX to create TD SYNNEX. And at Tech Data and TD SYNNEX, I ran the global cybersecurity business there. And one of the programs I launched for the benefit of our trusted advisors and our TAs is a practice builder program specifically for security. And to address the exact question you're asking, we had a lot of partners. I had 20,000 partners that would buy some type of cybersecurity from us throughout the year. And so many of them were pivoting from other disciplines. They might have been a network TA, or they might have focused in server or storage or something else, some type of service. They wanted to sell cybersecurity. They didn't know how to do it. So our practice builder program was a multi-step process that went through a series of weeks with each one of our partners to help them think about, rationalize, how to build a security practice. And what's really interesting is we found a couple of things that I think are important as we went and spent days in rooms with these guys trying to build business plans. We figured out that, number one, a lot of the partners that had started practices like a year before and just weren't growing, weren't successful. The reason was the very secret I just talked about. They had come from a network or storage partner. That's all they sold for years. Their sales team they hired knew how to sell storage, but yet they had picked like selling SIEM solutions like Splunk or Splunk or Microsoft Sentinel as a SIEM solution. The sales reps just simply didn't know how to talk about that, right? So once we aligned the security be network security, or in the case of storage vendors, data security, then it all seemed to fall into place. But some of the other things we learned from this exercise in this program was don't pick too many services or too many vendors to partner with right away. Get some feet under you, pick a couple of vendors that align to your sales team, pick a couple of vendors that have good, solid channel programs. They all are not the same. And we could talk about that more if we want to. But we also figured out that the services you pick one or two services to start, make sure you're really good at them and dial them in so that you can delight your customers with those services around security. and too many providers we were working with seemed to want to pick 5, 6, 7, 8 services and 10 to 20 vendors. And when you're starting out, that just gets too overwhelming and you can't be good at anything. So that's kind of the summary of this multi-year exercise we did with our security practice builder program.
Yeah, there's a lot of wisdom and probably definitely some pain behind that as well, where you had to figure that out. So, you talked about the channel, yeah, maybe speaking about what's a good channel program look like then for some of these vendors?
I spent an awful lot of time in distribution educating our vendors on exactly that question. It's funny how many vendors misunderstand the role of distribution and the role of building a channel. Startups in particular, they get their VC funding and they come straight to a distributor and think that's where the partners are, the resellers. And so if I just sign with them, I'll be okay. Unfortunately, it doesn't work quite that way. So the advice I always gave ISVs that were starting up or big enough to finally start thinking about channel is number one, you need four things, but number one, you need a partner program with a guide that explicitly lays out what the rules of engagement are. So what's the protected margin for the reseller or service provider that's going to sell your technology? You need that partner program to be on a partner portal. That's number two. So resellers and service providers, the channel wants self-service, right? So they have to be self-service with a partner portal. You need deal registration on that partner portal so that if I have an opportunity, I can bring it to my ISV and I can tell them about it and protect myself so no one else can come and scoop my deal, right?
Hmm.
If I'm first in, I get the highest discount in theory. And fourth, these vendors have to have self-service education and training. It's if you expect people to go to training classes you offer once a quarter or classes you offer online, it's just not going to work for most resellers and service providers. They don't have the bandwidth. Me at MicroAge, I have 75 security vendors we do business with regularly. I can't possibly schedule my team to go to training for all of them, right? But if it's self-service, a lot of these guys are taking training at night on the weekends, laying in bed with their iPads. So if it's self-service, we can make it work. So partner portal, clear partner program with clear rules of engagement and rules of how to make money, deal registration, and self-service training. Those are the advice I give ISVs as they're building up a channel.
Yeah, I'm taking notes on this because we only have a couple of those, and I think especially the self-service, we always feel like, hey, if we do it in person or at least jump on a call. But to your point, I mean, everyone's too busy, and especially during the day. They should be out there having meetings and stuff, trying to get revenue through the door and deals through the door versus listening to training for an hour or half an hour. So I'm taking that advice back to the team to do that. What about like an individual TA? There's a lot. This channel has a lot of smaller TA shops that don't have 70 sellers or a plus, etc. What about the people that want to make that transition? I guess from your advice, they would definitely get enabled through the channel, the vendor's channel program, and maybe some of the enablement that they're doing. What about when they're having the conversation and security starts coming up? The other thing you said, which is really relevant, is don't try to boil the oceans, right? Like don't try to do 8, 10 vendors when you've never even really sold security. So what do you think an easy starter services for security, and then how can they start to have those conversations?
Yeah, so there's a couple things that come to mind. First of all, make sure you start getting involved in your local security interest group. Most cities have local interest groups around security where you can be around like-minded people and you can kind of start to figure out which area of security might be good for you. They bring in presenters all the time. I go present at a lot of these around the country. And they're really great environments for you to fine-tune your strategy just by seeing what other people are talking about, like-minded peers, right? So that's one thought. Another thought is leverage your distributor. If you're a service provider, reseller, if you're going to market with an Avant type of aggregator or a TD Synnex type of a legacy distributor, they all have amazing resources, training around security. They've got connections into a lot of the vendors and suppliers and help you think about which ones might be good to build relationships with. They're the ones who have all the good dirt on on which vendors have the best margin beneficial programs, right? So you don't want to waste your time with someone who you're not going to make a lot of money with. So use your your Avants of the world, your TD SYNNEXes, Ingram Micros of the world in order to give you a leg up, because they've got tons of programs and resources that are generally free that you can leverage. The other thing is go to the big security conferences. I was just at Black Hat 2 weeks ago. We can talk the whole podcast about Black Hat, but so many great opportunities to learn from that community, not only in sessions, but just meeting the vendors in person. You get a rapid fire understanding of who does what and things. Just as I walk through the showroom at RSA or Black Hat, the thought comes to mind of, oh, I bet this solution will be good for this client of mine.
Right.
Or, hey, I've never had this thought before. I didn't even know this technology existed. Maybe that's someone I should reach out to after the show. So those are a couple of things that come to mind that help me figure out not only which technologies to sell, but also which services to invest in. And we can go down and chat about services more if you'd like as well.
Yeah, for sure. But I love this advice about going to Black Hat or RSA, because often the vendors you'll get free passes. It's not really a matter of even trying to get in. So it's like, if you can get to Vegas or San Francisco for those conferences and you can find a place to stay, that might be a challenge depending on where you're staying. When you get there, those, you saw it, the sellers are so hungry to speak to anyone. They'll scan your tag and then they'll give you a free education on security. So I love that advice, and it's really a good idea. And for the seller, or for the services, I'm sorry, the services that they can get into. I mean, MDR is kind of a table stakes kind of thing. Do you think, like, what are some of the things that you feel a trusted advisor could sell day one that they wouldn't have to understand too much about?
Yeah, if you're day one, my recommendation would be build a network of third-party service providers that you can resell.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not going to, on day one, have the skills, the know-how, the people, the resources, the funding to build an MDR, capability, a SOC as a service capability, your own pen testing team. So spend your time first building up a network of providers that can deliver those things for you, and you become the front end of that with your client. You leverage your client relationships and all of your historical accounts, and you can go in and sell MDR day one as an example. And whether you're selling CrowdStrike or Rapid7 or, there's so many, Arctic Wolf, there's so many examples. You can just sell someone else's stuff, and then you could figure out value add you can provide around it. For instance, maybe you do a gap assessment before you sell the MDR service. Help gap someone to the NIST cybersecurity framework as an example. Not terribly hard to do that. Doesn't take a lot of resources. And your output of the gap assessment could be, hey, we noticed you don't have a SOC as a service. You really need to think about MDR. And here's a couple of vendors we should set up demos for you, and we'll find a solution that works. So starting there, and then pen testing is another great example. Everybody needs to do pen tests every year to stay compliant with their cyber insurance. So you may not have the team to do that internally just yet, but I mean, I can probably list 10 off the top of my head, people that do that you could go resell and build some credibility, momentum. And then once you figure out what your client base tends to buy, maybe that's the area you invest in hiring your own people and building it out yourself so you can keep a little more of the margin.
Yeah, that's great advice. And why? Why should they sell security? What we've seen in the Trusted Advisor channel is that they are, used to maybe UCAS, CCAS, some of the other solutions, bandwidth, stuff like that. So some of them are just like, hey, security may be the next big thing, but I'm not sure I want to get into it because it's a more complex sale. So what are your thoughts on that?
Security can be a more complex sale, but it doesn't have to be. What I tell my client, my sales team, is that every single customer you approach, I don't care who they are, they're all struggling with a couple of challenges. Number one, they know that their cyber risk is increasing daily. The threat actors are getting smarter. They're using AI to write malware now and to purposefully mask themselves so they can get around traditional security measures. So clients all know that they're facing a really challenging battle. The second thing they know is they've all got too many security tools today. The average SMB customer has somewhere between 15 and 20 security tools. A mid-sized customer has somewhere between 20 and 45 security products. An enterprise customer can have upwards of 75 unique security tools.
Yep.
So they're all facing this real challenge of how do I integrate them? How do I make sense of them? Is it possible to consolidate to a platform approach? And the third thing that every single client we talk to is going to face is they can't find enough security people to help them figure out the first two, right? So there's a massive security shortage of skilled resources here in the US and globally, actually. So even though customers want to do more around security, they can't find people who know enough about the topic. So they tend to use IT people
Right.
as security experts. And unfortunately, what I've found in my career, having managed stocks and I built a cyber range and tech data, one of the fascinating outcomes of all that was IT people don't make great cybersecurity experts. And the reason is because IT people think very structured. We're very logical thinkers. We're typically programmers, right? If this, then that. But cybersecurity requires a non-linear thinker.
Mm.
Hackers are typically somewhere on an autism scale slightly because they think of solutions that are hard to think about. They're constantly ideating on fascinating new ways to hack into your environment. And so security researchers also are best if they come from the arts, liberal arts in
Yeah.
particular.
Yep.
If you're an artist, if you're a musician, that makes great cybersecurity people because they think non-linearly and they expect the unexpected. They're not expecting that a hacker is going to follow the instruction manual for how to compromise a Palo Alto firewall. They're going to think outside the box. And so, these kinds of things are some of the things that I've learned, just along the way.
Yeah, that's brilliant, and totally, relevant as well. Coming from someone with an arts background, which is where I got my degree. But the other thing about IT people that I noticed is that they're also technology focused, right? Obviously, that's the whole point. But it's got to be people and process too, and I think that's the part that they kind of skip sometimes and or just don't have the experience for. So we are constantly having that battle where it's like, yeah, your IT guy can do it. He's already got enough to do, or your IT team. However, to your point, they're not the best place for this. And also, there's always a tension, right, between the cyber team and the IT team, depending on the size of the company. So, yeah, we've done a bunch of incident responses where we've seen the IT team has actually created the incident, unfortunately, usually an outsourced MSP that's maybe sharing passwords across clients, or because they're only hired for a small scope or a certain scope, they're not patching certain devices like firewalls and things like that. They're only responsible for the endpoints or whatever M365 is installed on. So it leads to some real problems. And I think that luckily, you might be seeing this as well. The industry is kind of evolving past that, but they don't really have a choice sometimes either, depending on the size of the company. So, what's a challenge that you and the team at MicroAge have had to solve recently around security?
A challenge we've had to solve around security. So, I would say part of it is helping clients recover from ransomware attacks. It's always a challenge because they're not always the same. We've got our big sales kickoff is actually this week, later this week in Phoenix, and I'm doing a main stage. And at the end of my main stage presentation, I'm telling a story about a particular client that they got hit with a Kia ransomware. And, that's a ransomware as a service, as you might know. And so hackers just pay a certain monthly fee and get access to this platform that can send out attacks in multiple variants of ransomware. And then they can check in after work, to see if anybody got on the hook from the phishing email or something and
Mhm.
got attacked. This particular customer, got a ransomware variant. And this variant of ransomware typically is a double extortion variant ransomware. So you might pay the ransom to get you the decryption key, but then they tell you they exfiltrated your data too, and now they're going to put it public if you don't pay it again. So, just that was a really unique scenario to walk through with our client and figure out how to help them. They did not have a lot of security in this particular example. We ended up selling them a bunch of firewalls and re-segmented their network and sold them our managed MDR service to help them out. But I find it's a challenge. Every customer we talk to is in a different state because they all have different levels of security deployed. Some take it more seriously than others. I find that companies that are under some sort of regulation, healthcare under HIPAA, retail under PCI, managed service providers under SOC 2, government under CMMC or ISO 27001. Those are a little better off because at least there's a playbook to follow in order to be compliant. But a lot of our clients don't have a playbook. They don't know they can use the NIST cybersecurity framework and just follow the best practice and check the boxes, and you'll be in much better shape. So it's just sad on how we have to constantly reiterate the importance of what I consider to be table stakes security controls, but a lot of our clients just aren't there.
I think that's one of the biggest secrets in cybersecurity is it's actually to do it right can be somewhat boring. It's brushing and flossing. It's just, doing the small things repeatedly in a structured manner, and then having a way to find when things fall out of configuration and things like that.
I mean, just basics. The basics are email security. Don't rely on just Microsoft's email security. Get you a Mimecast or Proofpoint or Admiral or something. It's make sure MFA is turned on for every single account. Make sure you're doing privileged access for privileged accounts.
Yep.
Make sure you have endpoint security on every single endpoint device. These things are just table stake nowadays, and it's no different in our personal lives, right? I mean, how many of your family members still use the same password for all their accounts and don't use a password manager and have it frozen their credit? And we do this in our personal lives and we carry that over into our business lives.
Yeah. There's an inverse curve between convenience and security, unfortunately. So more convenience, less security. That's just the way it goes. But it's funny too, because you're talking about, I just to kind of geek out a little bit on the more technical side of the security, discussion. And it's not even that geeky, but with Proofpoint and all of that, those are great to add for email. But Microsoft, from what I've seen, actually has gotten better with its kind of core security products. Now they put it behind a paywall and stuff, and we can have that conversation. But I believe they should just let all the companies use it. But long story short, we saw where one provider had misconfigured the email, the email provider that was security provider that wrote on top of Microsoft, and they actually Microsoft caught a phishing email, but then it released it to this other tool, which then released it to the user, which then led to compromise. So
Yeah.
I think definitely the story there is not to not get email security, but determine the efficacy of the controls you have. If it's a provider, make sure that they've got a good history of doing good stuff, but also make sure it's configured correctly. How many of the breaches and things that you've seen are due to misconfiguration of actual security tools that have been paid for?
A lot. Yeah. And in the case of email security, a lot of people don't realize that you gotta kind of maintain that daily and weekly. An email security tool is not something you just turn on and let go. You've got to be looking at the phishing emails coming in. And if someone reports a phishing email, you got to make sure it's not going to any other mailboxes. Like there's a lot of active work that goes into truly doing that. And especially in our world, we focus on SMB mid-market, less so the large enterprise at MicroAge. So in our world, a lot of our clients tend to buy a secure email security product as an example and set it up once and not maintain it. And the configuration can quickly get inaccurate, right? So you got to maintain all these security products.
Oh yeah. And I think that's another mark against the IT providers sometimes is that they have that, it's kind of like, okay, we're going to sell the stack, right? It's ConnectWise, whatever their RMM is, LabTech, Huntress, Sentinel One, like, insert stack here, per seat license, maybe do some work for an hour on it when they're onboarding the client and then set it and forget it. And to your point, you can't forget it. You got to set it right the first time and then you have to check it. what excites you about the future of cyber?
AI. So it both excites me and frightens me to death, right? Because on one hand, I'm seeing some amazing use cases for AI being embedded in a lot of the security products we use every day. Vendors, that was the number one theme at Black Hat, obviously. 2 weeks ago was AI. It was misused a lot,
Oh
in terms
yeah.
of marketing messaging, of course. But there are absolutely a lot of really cool use cases. For instance, particularly with SIM solutions or XDR solutions, where you can take in and ingest large amounts of data and use an AI engine to do better correlation than we've done in the past. More importantly, to then write up the remediation plan in real time based on the particular threat you're seeing.
Yeah.
That's a huge step for incident response. So I think that there's a lot of really amazing things that I'm excited about there. But at the same time, I'm watching some of this malware that's being written by AI now, and written without as many human error in the code as a human might make. And I'm seeing ransomware that's kind of polymorphic and it can change its skin as it moves around your network and presumed to be different types of code and software so that it's harder to detect. That part is very scary, not to mention we used to have humans do pen testing to kind of find all the points of infiltration in a network, and there were scripts that could do some very prescriptive steps to try to log into a network as if I'm a threat actor. But now with AI, these hackers are writing code that is trying a penetration, looking at the result, ideating on a better way to try and trying again. And used to, you would have to rewrite your script and rerun it. And now it can kind of figure all this stuff out in real time on its own. And that's the frightening part.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because what that means is the cost of that is really low too. It's not like you need a $200 per month, subscription to Chat GPT for that. You can use a lot of the free tools out there to at least get to better than a basic level. And what we used to call script kiddies now that they're AI kiddies, I guess. And you're right. That's where the conversation with these customers, with organizations that are not investing in cyber. To your point, we see this all the time. The regulated industries have the best protection, and finance, which is a regulated industry, but they also have a very direct correlation between a breach and losing dollars. Some of these other companies that haven't gotten with the game, we're seeing like not even retail stores, but kind of services that were more even blue collar, but large like plumbing organizations or things like that that are now realizing that, or even oil and gas, right? That hey, we pull dead fossils out of the ground. It's like no, 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 you've got OT on your oil wells. You're doing all these other things that involve technology. No one can go back to paper, right? Like, I don't think there's any.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not one industry that can just say, "Okay, if we go down, we'll just go back to paper." It's almost everything is online now, so pretty crazy. Um, and by the way, yeah, Black Hat AI slapped on everything. I just swooped in for 24 hours, and it was pretty crazy to see right next to each other. I don't know if you walked the perimeter because I those are the more interesting ones, right? That's the up and comers, and
Yeah.
yeah, it was like, 2 or 3 AI SOC. I mean, there were probably 50 of them, but just in one row, you would see 2 or 3 right next to each other, and, advertising the same thing. It really you can tell there's a lot of money sloshing around.
Well, yeah, I've got a couple of friends in the VC community, and I work with a lot of startup CEOs in security as they're trying to build out their go-to-market and build channels. And what I've learned is that at this point, the VCs won't even give you money if you don't have an AI angle on your security product. So
Right.
I wasn't surprised at all to see all the AI focus and branding there in the area that the show that was focused on all the startup guys because they have to do that to get money.
Yep. Yeah, makes sense. So yeah, personal story. You have one that demonstrates kind of how cybersecurity has had a direct impact on your life or people you know?
Yeah, I mean, I would say one of the more interesting stories is how I kind of came to learn a lot about cyber, and then how I ended up applying it. I built a cyber range at Tech Data before I became TD SYNNEX in Phoenix, Arizona. So it's still to this day, I think, the only cyber range in distribution. It's a room, a facility where we can showcase the power of cyber. And we would host events there. Vendors would bring clients in there. We would do lock pick villages and teach people how to pick locks. We would showcase different types of security. We would demonstrate hacking exercises. We did facial recognition hacking. And I built a light kit on the ceiling so that anytime we hacked something in the room as part of a demo, the whole room would turn red. And people would come in from all over the country and host events there. And it was kind of a destination kind of event center. It was a lot of fun. But in order to build it, I had to hire a couple of guys who are very unusual. So I randomly ran across a guy at an event he was speaking at, and I had just moved to Phoenix, Arizona, and I heard that there's a speaker going to speak across the other side of the city over in Goodyear. So I drove all the way over there that morning. Took me an hour to get there just to hear this guy speak. And when I got and sat down, I noticed all these guys in suits came in and sat down all over the room. And one of them sat next to me. And I just leaned over and said, "Hey, I'm Alex. What are you doing here? And who are you with?" He said, "Oh, we're with the FBI." And I said, "Okay. And what are you doing here?" And he said, "Well, honestly, we learn more about the state of cyber from this speaker coming up than we do from our own cyber team." So I thought, well, okay, well, this is going to be an interesting presentation. And so this guy gets up and speaks for a little bit. And afterwards, I went up to talk to him because I had just been tasked with building a cyber range at Tech Data, and I didn't know where to start. And this guy talked about how he had built a nonprofit cyber range there in the Phoenix area. And so, long story short, he was looking for a job, and I ended up hiring him.
Nice.
And he built our range. But what was interesting is I found out the depth of his, I'll say, experience working with government agencies over 20 years doing cyber, and all the activity he did around the world related to that. And what's fascinating is, as he taught me over the next 2 or 3 years, all the behind the scenes of how cyber really works, how hackers really think. We diagnosed a lot of malware code together, classifying different attackers. It was a fascinating experience. So he brought in 2 friends of his from his world, I'll just say, that also built some unique tech for our cyber range that were really in the middle of actual cybersecurity, not just sellers of technology, not just implementers of, installers of firewalls, but guys who are really battling the threat actors in the field. And it was fascinating. So I got invited to go to Russia to a conference in Moscow for Kaspersky. They invited me to their global channel event. And so my team got so excited about prepping me for this. They taught me counter surveillance techniques and all kinds of things. And then they gave me a burner laptop and a burner phone. So off I go to Moscow, not knowing what I was going to get into. And so I get over there, and of course they took my luggage at the airport, gave it back to me the night I came home 5 days later.
Oh,
So I had to go find clothes for the week. They followed us everywhere we went from the hotel. And a long story short, they put malware on my phone, but not my laptop. And we're pretty confident it came in through the hotel network. So when I got home, my guys are super excited to try to investigate all the latest ransomware, or malware that was on my phone, and see if they knew about it before, if it had been caught in the wild or not. And so, just that whole experience of working in the cyber range, getting to work with real cyber specialists and learning from them, it was just fascinating. It's probably the most fun I've had in my career.
yeah, that sounds awesome. Building the cyber range and then being able to do it at the budget that you would have had to put that together and make it, super cool. And then these guys working with people at that level, that's phenomenal. Very cool. So, and you're personally, you're in Alabama, Birmingham?
I am. I'm in Birmingham right now. Moved from Phoenix a little while ago. Grew up here in Birmingham, but my company MicroAge is based in Phoenix. I'm in Phoenix an awful lot.
Okay, yeah. This year, Special Forces is not in Phoenix. I guess it's in Dallas, the Avant Channel event. So I don't know if you'll be there, but would have been easier in Phoenix, I think, for you. Um, How'd you get here? It looks like you've had, technology leadership positions at pretty significant companies for most of your life, and so how'd that lead you into the cyber world?
So I was computer science background in college. I went to Auburn University, and I went straight from there to the customer community. I went to FedEx to work as a system administrator and learn. And that's where I really learned the technical side of IT, system admin for a whole bunch of operating systems and networking and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
From there, I went to a reseller where I learned a lot about the sales cycle. How do you sell? I was a pre-sale solution architect and eventually ran software development there for a while and became their CTO. But when we moved into, we sold the company actually to Avnet, a distributor. And at Avnet, they were looking to invest in four new practice areas that seem to be up and coming in the market: IoT, cybersecurity, data analytics, and mobility. And back then, those were kind of newer concepts for distribution. Customers were really asking a lot of questions, and partners were trying to figure out how to sell this stuff. So they came and asked if someone would be willing to start a practice at Tech Data at Avnet at the time around cybersecurity. And I raised my hand, and I was like, I know cybersecurity, and I've been doing cyber for a long time, and on my personal life.
Hmm.
And so they gave me a shot to build a cybersecurity practice there at Avnet. And later, when Avnet got acquired by Tech Data, they asked me to run the full North America cyber business and eventually global. And it kind of went from there. But it came from a particular leader giving me a chance to help them build a business, which was really, really great.
That's awesome. That's really cool. It's a good way to get into. I think you have to be technical, right? I don't believe you can be successful at cyber these days. At least have a long career if you don't have technical skills.
I agree. Software development in particular is important to understand how malware might behave and what type of security you need to defend against it. And the scary part about AI is that we are replacing that great skill set of software development that people go through as a rite of passage in IT with AI. And so I think about how we're moving more toward a new role of software architect,
Mhm.
where humans will architect a software offering, but probably use AI to build the modules for it. But then over time, fast forward 8 to 10 years, who has the skill to be a software architect if no one went through the process of writing code and understanding code?
Oh yeah.
So it'll be an interesting sticky wicket, as they say.
Yeah.
We'll figure that out.
Yeah, we will see. It's a brave new world. We're still trying to figure out how this AI is going to impact us. And in some ways, I think, humans are not going to be replaced. It's just we'll be able to use it as a tool. And those who stop using it as a tool or don't know how, those are the ones that might be left behind. So, what do you do outside of work? I know that you've got a propeller behind you. So
Yeah, hobby. My main hobby is aviation. I have an airplane. I have a Mooney. It's a 1993 Mooney M20M Bravo. For any of you Mooney fans out there, it's a long body Mooney, big bore 6-cylinder engine. Can go to 25,000 feet. Comes with oxygen,
wow,
not pressurized. Oxygen. It's a traveling plane. So my wife and I like to go on the weekends. We'll fly in different cities and have dinner and come back. We'll fly to the beach here from Birmingham quite a bit and have to see food. Come back. We just, I like little missions. Most weekends, you'll find me taking my buddies and their kids out.
that's really cool. So you've got a lot of hours under your belt.
I've got a little over 300 hours. I'm instrument rated.
Very
It's a high performance, complex airplane. There's a classifications of a license. So it's fun. It's a great hobby. The reason I love aviation is just like IT, you can never stop, or cybersecurity, you never stop learning.
right.
Every single night, I'm in bed on my iPad for about an hour, watching a combination of cybersecurity or aviation videos on YouTube, right? Just learning about the craft. There's always something more to learn about an airplane, about flying, about the rules and regulations, how to be safe. It's a never-ending journey, and I need that distraction because otherwise I would spend all my time, at work.
Yep. Yeah, that's great. And it's true too. We had an earlier episode where we spoke about how what makes a good cyber professional, and I think definitely um, constant learning. If you want to get into this industry, that's the best advice is to be someone who constantly learns. If you're intimidated by that, or it doesn't feel good to be confused when you show up at work, no matter how much you know, then probably not the right field for you.
I get a lot of questions. Friends of mine bring their teenage kids or their college kid and say they want to get into security and they want to get to lunch and figure out what they should do. And my
Yep.
answer is always, you need to understand that cybersecurity is the culmination of multiple disciplines. You need to study networking. You need to study computers and operating systems. You need to study software development, scripting at the very least with something like Python. And then you learn cybersecurity because cybersecurity really requires all those disciplines to be good at it. And you can do all of that for free. I point people to cybrary.it,
Mhm.
and their amazing free website. It's just tailored to cybersecurity training.
Oh yeah.
If you're going after your CompTIA Security Plus or your CISSP, most of the resources you need can be free and online.
Yeah. Yeah, including AWS or spinning up infrastructure somewhere where
Mhm.
you can test, build a network and test it. You're probably a little bit younger than me, but around the same time frame where you had to have a rack, a very noisy server in your house, and to be able and a bunch of routers and switches to be able to play with this stuff. And now you can do it online for with free credits here with AWS. So there's no excuse.
The only difference is I could get equipment donated from lots of places. At one point, I had
Yeah.
10 servers in my house and a rack, and I had dedicated power run to my office in the house. And so once you buy it, you kind of have it all, but with cloud, you got to pay
Yeah.
regularly. It can be a little more expensive nowadays, but you have access to better tech nowadays because I was running old AIX servers and Solaris servers and,
Oh yeah.
you know,
Oh yeah, and then also if you have a wife or a partner, they're not gonna they don't suffer that very long.
very noise.
Yeah, the
Yes.
noise and the heat. Yeah. So Alex, where can people find you?
I have a YouTube channel.
Okay.
So my YouTube channel is Cybersecurity Deciphered, DECYPH. And I post content out there regularly. Lately, what I've been doing for MicroAge, I started doing it just internally for our reps, but I publish these on LinkedIn and my YouTube channel every month. I release a video I call a Cyber Bite video, bite as in BYTE. They're short. They're 10 minutes. They're on one topic, like what is zero trust, or I talk about the difference in the EDR, MDR, and XDR in a video. So each video is one topic around cyber. They're 10 minutes. They're easy to consume. And then my marketing team cuts them up into shorts, and puts them out on LinkedIn throughout the month. So follow me on LinkedIn and you'll check out my Cyberbite videos.
That's awesome, and we'll put the link in any of the places that you find this podcast. So thank you, Alex Ryals. Thanks to those that are also watching or listening. If you learned something today or laughed, please tell someone about this podcast. Thanks again, Alex. And this has been another exciting episode of Channel Security Secrets. We'll see you the next time. That's a wrap for this episode of Channel Security Secrets. Thanks for tuning in. For show notes, guest info, and more episodes, visit us at channelsecuritysecrets.com. Channel Security Secrets is sponsored by Cyber Defense Group. When it comes to protecting your business, don't settle for reactive. Partner with experts who build resilience from the ground up.